All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Best Self Blueprint. So, anyone who's listened before knows the mission of this podcast is to bring on people with the knowledge, insights, and experiences as to what it takes to move that dial towards becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. So, this next guest is known all over the globe due to a project he started to meet new people. This project brought him virtually face to face with 100 strangers from 45 different countries and 6 different continents, all with a unique combination of upbringings, religions, political affiliations, careers, and overall life experiences. But he didn't stop there. Following this project, he hosted a virtual event with hundreds of people from over 50 countries to help others get the experience of meeting and connecting with new people from across the globe. His desire to show everyone the beauty of human connection and his willingness to seek discomfort in order to live an exciting life are sure to leave you with a lot to think about. So, to officially introduce Ahmed Jabbir, how you doing, man?
Good, good. Thank you for that introduction. You made me sound cool. I appreciate that. I'm honored to be here on this podcast.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited. So, where I want to start is what were a couple of the most surprising takeaways from the meeting 100 new people? What were a few things that you really just didn't expect?
Right. I would definitely say the first thing that really comes to mind is a lot of people sometimes they shared things that were very heavy to them, and usually in the past sometimes I wouldn't mind listening and hearing things out, but sometimes it can get exhausting hearing so much pain. And it's normal, it's human beings, and that's why there's like compassion fatigue as nurses, as social workers, people have. But I feel like I got an opportunity to one strengthen that muscle. So even at the beginning, initially I'd hear something and I need to take a break, like a few days from the project before I speak to someone else. But at a certain point, I started to gain some momentum where, hey, I'm able to, someone shares with me a very tragic story there. They lost their grandparent and this happened and that happened. And then I'm like, okay, I can just get back right into it, onto the next person. And not to say that I start to lack empathy, I start to feel that empathy, but I was able to have more momentum and resilience as I go. That's the first. The second is getting an opportunity to listen to people that were different and being more open minded. It's very cliche. I think we've all heard the phrase try to see yourself walking a mile in that person's shoe. And I really got an opportunity to see that. And some people, especially with the people that were more, came from completely different backgrounds than me, I got an opportunity to empathize and listen to their story and their perspective. So there, and I was more willing to listen and understand other people. So there are two things that really come to mind.
So, because I was on the call with the big virtual event, when you were doing these one-on-one conversations, was it pretty similar where you were asking like really in-depth, intimate questions?
Yeah. So the way that worked is that I'd hop on the call, say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And we'd understand, and we just really check in, small talk. But then I'd get, I'm a very curious person. I like to get deep. So I did ask, I guess, questions that were more deeper, sort of like the call. Um, and definitely my skills of being able to ask deeper questions also became quicker and it became more natural and also became a lot more personal. So I did try to go as deep as I could on those calls. Sometimes, to be fair, um, not everyone wanted to get as deep. Sometimes people just wanted to talk about their culture and their country, talk about their favorite music. I was open to anything. I just hopped on the call. I did not know what to expect each conversation, and I was ready to let it blossom naturally. But if there was an opportunity, I would ask deeper questions because I love hearing about the depth in people.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's missing from everyday life for a lot of people too, is that real, raw, intimate connection with someone you haven't already known for 10 years or 20 years or however long. It's someone you're literally just meeting minutes before,
Mhm.
but you really want to connect, and the best way to do that is to put those walls down.
Oh yeah.
So I
Uh,
think I think that's awesome.
Thank you. I'm curious. I mean, you seem very passionate about this. Have you gotten, I mean, you even, this is our first time really talking one to one. And so I guess what intrigued you to come to the call? Is this something that the big event, is this something that you also really admire that deeper human connection too?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty much the reason I started this podcast, as I mentioned right before we hopped on, where I I love meeting interesting people and just learning how they tick, like learning what exactly what you did, like learning their background, learning what their beliefs are, learning how they spend their time, where they decide to invest their energy, all of that stuff. And then yeah, talking about philosophical things and if it comes up traumatic things and the trials and tribulations. And so it drew me to that event in particular was I'm in the Yes Theory group, which I absolutely love Yes Theory, so shout out to them. But yeah, it was I just saw there's an opportunity to meet someone that I otherwise would never have the chance to meet, most likely in my entire life. And I met one person from Lithuania and then another person from across the United States. So
Wow.
it's just incredible for me that you get that one shot to meet that person and they could teach you something that you otherwise never would have learned or never would have thought about. So I think there's so much power in that.
There is, and I think I don't know if you can agree with this, but I think the idea of speaking to someone from a different country too, naturally we may feel a bit more open to share more about our lives. Do you also feel like that's something too, compared to someone that lives in the same city? I think it's easier to get more vulnerable with someone that lives in a different part of the world than you.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that too is because in the back of your head, you know that in talking to this person and sharing all these things right now, it's not nearly as likely that you're going to see them walking down the street 2 weeks from now. So you
Mhm.
don't have to worry about like, oh, what are they going to think of me if I really open up and they aren't receptive to that? I can just leave and never have to look back.
Right.
But I really think it's like you talked about strengthening that muscle of compassion and being able to take in hearing about those experiences and kind of get back to your like normal energy, I guess. I think it's the same thing with practicing vulnerability and intimacy. Now, a lot of
Mhm.
people think of intimacy as like, oh, like your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife intimacy, but no, intimacy is just being vulnerable. It's being intimate. It's connecting with people. And I think the more that you practice that, the better you get at it. So every opportunity I get, I jump on it.
That's awesome. And so you saw the event through the Yes Theory group then, right?
Yeah, and so that was something I wanted to talk to you about too, because any real like big fan of yes theory really lives by the motto seek discomfort.
Mhm.
When did you really start like implementing that practice in your life and how has that benefited your life or impacted your life?
Right. So I actually started in around 2014. It was after a very dark phase in my life. I think it was after my first year of university. I know it sounds very cliche, but I was very lost. I was like, am I even in the right program? Went through a difficult breakup at the time. And I'm like, I really struggled. Something I always struggled with growing up was I was very socially anxious. I don't know how, I guess, the idea of public speaking, the idea of meeting someone new, it just made me really uncomfortable. And so I'm like, after I guess this low rock bottom-ish phase in my life in 2014, I'm like, I want to challenge myself and stretch myself outside of my comfort zone. And so what I did is I was in a psychology class and it's because I'm a psychology major. And my professor, she was telling us how we all have a core thought about ourselves in our mind. For example, I am great, I am a loser, or I am phenomenal. It's like there's always like, if we keep on digging deep down, there's always like one main core thought. And I realized in that class, I'm like, mine is like, I am, I'm a loser. I, I'm a loser. And I'm like, I think that was the most powerful thing for me, is recognizing like, hey, there is this vulnerability and this weakness that I have, and what am I going to do to change that? And so she was saying how, in order to change that, is one way you could do is have a journal and write 3 great things about yourself every single day. And I was fascinated by that. Um, I know it sounded, I guess I was just very inspired in the moment, and I'm sure I've heard about it in different areas of my life even before that. But there was just something about that phase in my life, hearing it at the great time. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start doing that. And literally about 10 minutes after my professor explained that, she asked, can I get a volunteer? And this is a social psychology class with about 300 people inside. And before in high school, I I had to ask my teachers, I can't do this presentation, this PowerPoint, because I can't speak in front of my class of 20. I can't. I don't care if I fail. I'm not going to, I'm sorry, miss, I cannot do it. And so this was like a huge jump. And I'm like, I want to commit to this. And I want me raising my hand today to be the first thing I enter in that journal. And so I raised my hand, and lo and behold, she chose me. And here I am. I'm like, oh, damn, what did I get myself into? So she literally is like, okay, come to the front. And I did a game. It was like this psychology experiment. And I did it. And afterwards, I felt amazing. I genuinely felt amazing. And I think getting an opportunity to write, have that be my first journal entry and give myself such a strong momentum, gave me confidence that I ended up continuing that journal for 700 days. Every day, I'd write 3 great things about myself that I did that day. Whether it be so small, like, hey, I opened the door, or, oh, if I had nothing to do that day, I just like, even if I said, I ate healthy that day. I opened, like, I gave a high five to somebody. Any small little thing. To be fair, there was about 30 days in total where I just wrote, I am great, I'm great, I'm great, without giving a reason. In total, about 30 days like that out of the 700. But that gave me confidence to start, hey, seeking discomfort and getting outside of my comfort zone. And then literally a few years after that, my cousin tells me about yesterday. I'm like, oh, wow, these guys are so cool. These guys are exactly the type of lifestyle I'm trying to live right now. And they're ahead of me, obviously. Even though I feel like I started earlier, they're ahead of me. And I'm like, there's so many other ways I can challenge myself on. And so um, I think the great thing about getting to a low point and being resourceful and finding ways to challenge yourself is that in other future low points, like this pandemic, when it happened, I lost out on a lot of plans. I wanted to travel. I'm like, I'm not going to just sit and get hurt by it. I'm going to find a way to do something. And so that's where I'm like, you know what? I can do this project. And by then, I had like years of practicing public speaking and meeting new people. So it didn't seem like it was outside of my comfort zone, the speaking part, but rather the idea of learning about people and empathizing with people that were different from me. So now I'm on a journey right now to stretch myself outside of my comfort zone in every single way that I can. I have a damn long way to go, but I'm really excited. And I'd say that's, I guess, the origin as to how I started this journey of challenging myself. And there's been so many along the way too in the past 6, 7 years.
Man, that is awesome. All right. So the first thing I want to touch on is what you said about there was something about like the whether it was the way the teacher said it or just the timing in your life, but it seems like lessons like that tend to pop up exactly when we need them. Whether it's
Yes.
like you can hear the same thing 100 times, but that 101st person uses a different word or says it in a different tone, and it just clicks, and it always seems to hit right at the perfect moment. So I think that's important to like, and I think you'll agree with this. When you have that, you just get this almost like visceral feeling or like a gut feeling of like, I need to pay attention to that because that's like something about that is just resonating with me on a different level. And I urge people, when you get that feeling, like buy into it, lean into that, and go with whatever experience is presenting itself to you. Now, obviously, if you're gonna like physically get injured or someone else get injured, then maybe don't do it. But barring that, like you should always be leaning into this stuff. And another thing I want to touch on, just because I get this as well, which is why I'm always in pursuit of getting outside my comfort zone as well, as you said, that first time I raised my hand out of however many other people raised their hand, I got picked, I went up, I did it, and I felt amazing. And I think people aren't thinking about how good it'll feel when you actually take that chance, because whether it works out or it doesn't, you're going to feel good about the fact that you took the chance and the fact that you did the thing, because regardless, you're going to get something from the experience unless you don't do the experience. So I think that's awesome. And props to you for, because I think what a lot of people also tend to do is they have that one area where they're like, okay, yeah, I need to overcome this obstacle because there's an immediate negative effect in my life. They overcome that obstacle and then they're kind of good. But you took it like, all right, I was seeking discomfort in this area, it taught me this. Well, what if I go apply that to this area? Well, what if I go do that over here? And you kind of spider webbed it out throughout like every area of your life. And I think if people took on that mentality and that philosophy, they would live a really exciting life and possibly meet people from 50 or 60 countries and 6 or 7 continents. And so I just think that's really amazing.
Oh yeah. What you said, the first thing that you said about like the sometimes something comes at the right moment, and I maybe this sounds very spiritual and hippie, but I do feel like it comes down to two things. Like sometimes there is um, like this powerful source that just gives us something when we need it, you know, and it's there, whether it be, I don't know, the God, the universe, whatever it is. I don't even know what I believe in, but I know that there's something, there's always some sort of light that's there that we can use, and as long as we're being resourceful, um, and it teaches us so much, and sometimes maybe it's always been there, but because we're at such a dark spot, any little bit of source of light is a huge source of light in moments like that, and that's why we notice it. Just like what you said, we may have heard it 100 times, but at the 101st time, it's like it's that little source of light that became so big and it became at the right time when we needed it.
Yeah, I always think about, I don't remember who said this, but it stuck with me for a really long time where like if you think about like what, again, God, the universe, karma, Mother Earth, you name it, is giving to you, a lot of people say, well, I want a cake. And what they don't realize is the universe, God, whatever, has given you eggs, flour, baking mix,
Yes.
a spatula, a pan, an oven, the recipe. But people are like, well, no, like, where's my cake? I want a cake.
Mm.
And I think there needs to be a perceptual shift of understanding like what resources really are available to you and what's actually been provided for you, but you might have to do a little work to get that cake. You have to put those pieces together. And I think the powers at be almost have like a sense of humor when it comes to that stuff, where
Yes.
they'll give you everything you need without, putting it flat in front of your face most of the time.
Uh-huh.
and it's up to us to figure it out.
Yeah, and then we realize we're so much more capable than we are after we do figure out. It's the best feeling. I'm curious, do you feel like you had a very strong moment? I'm not sure if you've already shared this on the podcast, or have you had like a strong moment of yours where you guess started that journey where you wanted to challenge yourself and you realize, oh, I have the resources to make that cake. Have you had a big monumental moment like that in your life?
Yeah, so I think I've touched on it briefly, but I haven't really gotten really into it on the podcast. But uh, pretty similar story to yours actually. So I was in my first year at college, and same thing. I felt like a fish out of water. I just didn't care too much about any of my classes. I didn't see any sense of purpose of what I was doing there. I was eating pizza and cheeseburgers every day. I would go to the gym, but only to try to look good. I wasn't actually doing anything that would make me healthy and fit and feel good. And I was partying and doing things people shouldn't be doing. And I really hit this point of if if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to end up in a spot nobody wants to be. And so I started actually with my mindset, because I came to realize if your mindset isn't there, nothing else is going to fall into place. And if it does happen to fall into place, you're just going to ruin it once it does. So I got my mind right and my body right. And then once I felt I had the energy to really portray the true sense of who I knew I was, like you talk about that core belief, I
Mhm.
needed to get back to that. And once I got back to that, then it was game on of like, all right, I've always considered life to be somewhat of a game where you just try to see how many levels you can get through. And I think seeking discomfort is a huge part of that, where you you don't grow in your comfort zone. It's a great place for celebration and for reflection and for just kind of hanging out and having a good time. But even think about when you were growing up, you had physical growing pains because your body was growing.
Mhm.
And I think it's the same thing with life, where there's going to be some painful things when you step out of that comfort zone, but that's where you grow the most. And so that's kind of where I just had those realizations. And then it was the same thing where once I started kind of going along that journey, certain people and certain opportunities were just kind of, luckily, I guess. I don't know if it was because of things I did or just, happenstance, but things were put in place to really assist me along that journey. And now I'm to the point where, yeah, I'm meeting amazing people on a weekly basis. I'm doing great things that are in line with my passion. And I really think a big part of that is just being willing to take those chances.
Mm. Wow, man, I love that. What stage though in your journey did you run into yes theory?
So for me, it was maybe a couple years ago. So I was about a year and a half into really putting in some serious self-development work in. Um, yeah, probably a good 2, 3 years of like really serious work on myself. And that was when I got shown the video, or no, I was listening to Jay Shetty's podcast,
Mm.
and he had Matt on and Thomas to do an interview. And the entire time I'm like, man, these guys are awesome. Like I have to go see what they're about. And I ended up just binging Yes Theory videos. And it's really inspiring. And that's, I'm sure, a big reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is they essentially combined what they're passionate about and instilled a crazy work ethic into it. And now they're doing what they love and impacting hundreds of millions of people. So
Mhm.
I think that's kind of the dream.
Mhm. Then let's set it as a goal by 2021 or 2022. You have them on here on this podcast. I
Ooh.
I see that happening, man. I'm gonna manifest it. We'll set it as a goal. I'll keep you accountable. It's gonna happen.
Okay. Yeah, I would be more than happy to have any of those guys on here, preferably all of them if possible. But yeah, I just think what they're doing, I mean, you and I both have been impacted by it so much. And it's it's such a like a common sense thing you'd think, but their ability to portray it in such a fun, exciting, childlike, like passion driven way is unparalleled in my opinion. And I think it's really cool the community they've built with people who are all looking to do the same thing of make the most out of life in terms of their relationships, their careers, their contributions, all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think out of any YouTube community, they have one of the strongest ones. I mean, over 150,000 on Facebook. Where do you find that? And the people there, they're constantly posting too. Like one of the strongest communities on YouTube for sure. Even though they've only 6 million subscribers.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the thing with that too is it's very similar to your your project with meeting these different people from these different backgrounds is despite all those differences, people are so much more alike than we think. We all have struggle, we all have goals, we all have beliefs, and I just think it's so important to understand that, like understand that we're all trying to live a good life, live a healthy life, live the life that we picture as our dream life, whatever that means to us. And to have a community like that, I think is so inspiring. And really that's kind of the goal of what I'm doing here is try to get a group of people, people who are listening or people who have listened before know I talk about this is like the logo of Best Self, my business. And I talk about I want it to be the bat symbol in the sky for self-development. Because I really think it's important to have, you know, people who are motivated and are passionate about becoming the best version of who they can be talk with each other and compare notes and be running buddies and just like you were talking about like hold each other accountable. So yeah, I think it's amazing.
So, sorry, that resonates with me so much. I mean, remember Pitbull? He said, "Show me your friends, I'll show you your future." And whether it be show you're the average of your five closest friends, there's so many quotes like that, and they're so true. In order for us to rise and grow, we need to have a community that challenges our growth and that we're inspired by, too. A lot of the people in my life now have definitely created almost like a strong foundation where even the girl I'm dating now and my roommate, my closest friends, they're all dreamers, and I feel like that's also been a huge part of my growth, especially the past year or two. So it's totally so important.
Well, and I think too the label of dreamer has such a negative connotation, but
Mhm.
as long as you're willing to put in the work to make that dream a reality, I think dreamers are the most fun people to be around because they're the ones who don't get locked into their current situation and their current limitations. They're willing to think beyond that. And when you can have that ability to envision exactly what you want and what how much good you can do for yourself and for others and for the world and then bring it back to now and draw the map, obviously it's going to change, there's going to be things you don't expect, but that's what makes life exciting in my opinion is that pursuit of making those dreams come into fruition, come into your present.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, uh, but nowadays, I feel like there's always like a very linear path. And a lot of times, maybe we're told, oh, try something new, go this route. But I think as we get older, we become more conservative. And that's why, like with the path and the style that we're approaching, because we realize it's hard. I guess being a dreamer or being someone that tries to challenge the norm and tries to pursue like a vision that's different, it's hard. It really isn't easy. So yeah, it's totally so important.
Yeah, and I will say too, like when you say like it's kind of it turns into like a linear path almost, especially I think like you said, the older you get, the more you think about like, oh, well, I have a responsibility to this person and I have a responsibility to pay my mortgage and to pay my car insurance and to do all these things. And I think unfortunately what that does is it creates neural pathways to like hone in our focus on just like responsibility.
Mhm.
And one thing I think is crucial is as you get older, bring that child version of yourself with you who would just run around in the backyard with a stick and be amused for 5 hours and would always question everything. And I I just don't see enough of that. But every person I can talk to and hopefully instill a little bit of that in, I think goes such a long way because at the end of the day, like really what life is about is creating the best experience you can create in the present moment for every present moment, or at least as many as you can, and
Mhm.
really intensify the beauty of that experience. And I don't think you do that just by thinking about bills and car payments and all that.
No, no. And I like what you said about letting out our inner child, just to literally play with a stick. I remember I saw that in someone say that in a self development YouTube channel. I was like, wow. Like even when people say self care and have time to yourself, have fun, it's like we think about, oh, I'm gonna do the laundry, I'm gonna check off my list, I'm gonna have a massage. These are adult ways to have fun. But when was the last time we let ourselves have fun the same way we did as kids? And that's really, really important to do too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so like one practice I tell people is if you really want to experience things in a new lens, act for 24 hours. So from the time you wake up one day to the time you go to bed, act like you are an alien that gets to live a day in a human body.
Mm,
So like you wake up and you're like, what is this weird thing that I'm laying on right now? Oh, it's called a bed. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I'm walking on this like soft ground. Oh, it's a carpet. And like to pull yourself out of all these things that are just so mundane and original or like just boring to you and to put them in a new light and think about like, whoa, what is this weird thing that picks up everything I'm pushing out of my mouth? Like,
mm,
oh, it's a microphone. And to put the awe back in things. But also, yeah, I think and it takes effort. It's not an easy thing to do once you've cultivated the habit of looking at things in the way of, yeah, like an adult, I guess, to
mhm.
sum it up. But it takes concentrated effort and intention, especially when you're just starting to do this as a practice. But for example, for Christmas gifts for my family, and then for the Secret Santa Christmas gift that I gave my friend, on top of the actual like physical gifts I gave him a little slip of paper that said, I want you to pick out one activity that meets the following criteria. The first one was it's something that you're really passionate about. Second one was it's something that brings you joy. And then the third one was it's something that brings out your inner child.
Mm,
And so to almost generate those experiences for yourself and for other people, again, I just think it's so important. I think it's the essence of what makes life worth living.
mm. 100%. How do you let out your inner child?
So I do it in a few different ways. So
Here,
the first one, and I've talked about it on here before, but my morning routine,
mhm.
when I get out of bed, I just throw myself a 2-minute dance party with
Nice.
no music. So I just dance, kind of replaying songs in my head. And then I'm really active. So I do since I'm a health coach. So for a lot of my training, I do like ninja warrior stuff where I'm swinging from ropes and jumping around on bars and balance obstacles and things like that. So it's pretty much an adult playground at that point.
Yeah.
But also like I'll just randomly like jump on my bed and just like what you were talking about, like you'll just go around and like randomly give someone a high five.
Mhm.
Just stuff that if you take all the limitations off of you of like, are they going to think I'm weird? Are they going to judge me? And you just like walk around with no weight on your shoulders and have fun with it. Life's going to give you a little hop in your step.
Yeah, it'll give you a different flavor. That's for
Oh
sure.
yeah. But yeah, so I try to do it in any way I can. I've got habits in place to allow me to just kind of like let loose and have fun. But also, I think the best times are when you're really not expecting it and you just like an opportunity presents itself for you to go do something crazy and fun. Um, like I don't necessarily know if this is childlike fun, but a friend of mine and I on New Year's we decided to do a polar plunge. So
Mm.
we brought out a sledgehammer, bashed a big hole in the lake, and we just jumped in, came out, sat by the fire, talked, had fun. So yeah, it's every opportunity you can get to just make life more upbeat, more exciting, more fun, more lighthearted. Obviously, that you can't always do that. You still have responsibilities. You still have things that you have to do to, you know, get an income and provide for your family and do all of that. But I think just to sum it up, like have more fun, do more things for you.
Yeah, it's so important. It's hard too because there's something I feel like you're a lot ahead of me on that journey of letting loose and having fun. That's something I struggle with a lot. I can be very serious at times, and I'm trying to find. I love to play basketball, and that's something I like to do in order to have more fun. But I think other than that, it's it. Although the past few months, my roommate and I, what we did is we both bought Nerf guns, and we've been having like Nerf dodgeball wars and even letting and that also comes with the same fights you have as kids. Like we sometimes we fight like kids and we don't even realize it. Like, no, I hit you. No, you didn't. And even during the fights, it's so fun to just let loose and stop being so damn serious and being like a working professional. Um, so I'm really trying to explore that and learn about that. But I uh, I'm practicing.
Yeah, man. So I'll tell you what, we'll trade. You hold me accountable for getting the Yes Theory crew on here. I'll hold you accountable for doing, let's say, 20 new things that bring out your inner kid.
I like that. I like that.
All right.
Thanks. Challenge accepted.
Perfect. All right. So I do a final two for everyone on the podcast. It's like two final questions. It's my little way of doing a like grand finale.
Yeah.
But before I do that, because I think your if people want to connect with someone new, um, you're an awesome person to talk to because you kind of have that practice. You've done the repetitions of knowing, how to kind of dive a little deeper. If people want to connect with you to ask questions or just talk, where can they reach out and connect with you?
Um, let's say because I recently deactivated my Instagram, but let's say on my email or Facebook, and that's just my email is my first name Ahmad. Oh, sorry, actually, are you going to be giving it on
I'll
this?
put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Sure, perfect. Okay, then I'll send you my Facebook and my email.
Awesome. All right. So for the final two, the first question is what at this point for you is the next step for you to become your best self?
Right. Right now, I've been putting a huge focus on my fitness and nutrition. Actually, I hired one of my friends as a fitness coach, and I've been doing consistent workouts. I set a goal for myself of doing 100 workouts before August 31st, and right now I'm on workout 19. And just something about the number 100, I've done a lot of goals when it comes to it, and so for the first time, I feel a lot motivated there. Made like a chart, and so um, catch me at August. You'll see I'm at 100 workouts complete.
That is a great answer for a health and fitness coach. Just so
Yeah,
that you made me very proud with that answer.
I love that.
All right. And then, so for the final question, it's less of a question and more your opportunity to challenge the listeners. So, if you could challenge people listening to do one thing that, when completed, will either, better their life in some way or teach them something, what's the challenge you would give to people listening?
the next project they start, they finish it. And I know it sounds so simple, but I feel like a lot of people nowadays, and I'm still learning how to do this too, but we start projects and we don't finish it. It's hard, whether people start a book, and whether it be a book, some sort of informational video, finish it and see what comes out of it before we let go of a book 2 chapters in. No, we complete it, and it's the one of the best feelings ever.
Dude, it's crazy that you gave that as an example because I am working on a book right now. So
Uh-huh.
that is, I freaking love that challenge. So, like, for people who don't have a project going on right now, think of a project that'll like either, help you grow as a person or will just be fun to do, like a fun project. If you enjoy writing, yeah, maybe write a book. If you enjoy music, write a song. If you enjoy connecting with people, contact 100 new people and hang out with them.
Yeah.
But I let you know, just like I let every guest know, I will absolutely do that. So I am just starting the process of writing a book. I will absolutely make sure that is finished. Um,
Hell
and
yeah.
yeah, I think that one's amazing. So, man, I want to thank you for taking the time, sitting down, talking, but I want to thank you for actually following through, for finishing the project you started of meeting 100 new people and then setting up that crazy event with how many people were in that event,
152
in the online event.
in the online, in the Zoom event all at once. 152.
Wow. Yeah. That was amazing. So I want to thank you just for really finishing what you started with that, because I think you had a tremendous ripple effect for everyone on that call to go out and, really start making those connections with people they otherwise were just, passing by on the street or always sitting next to on the bus and never said anything to. I think you made a big impact on that. So I want to thank you for that, man. That's incredible.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot, and thank you for coming. I think it takes a certain type of person to come to an event like that. So shout out to you. And um, if there is anything that comes that you'd like my support in, whether it be a book, you want me to share it to friends when you do write it, or anything of that sort, feel free to reach out. I'd love to support us people who are creating new things in any way that I can.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate that, and I'm sure I'll have plenty of opportunities for you to help me out. But yeah. So for anyone listening, really think about some of the things that we were mentioning about the importance of human connection, seeking discomfort in order to actually live the life you want to live. Incorporating that childlike passion again, finishing what you start.
Mhm.
Um, there are so many amazing lessons in this one. So if you just kind of cruise through it right now, reset the video, watch it again, and like take notes or pay close attention because there was so much good content in here. If you have questions for either of us or comments about anything we talked about, go ahead and comment or reach out to us privately. If there's someone you think who could really use this talk in particular, share it with them. But other than that, that is all I got. And we will see you all next week.